All right, welcome back to the fourth
episode
of the Some Pulp Podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Josh. And today we have two guests, which is new for the Some Pulp Podcast.
Yes.
To my left, we have...
I'm Zach.
And...
Haley.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about Squid Game. We're going to have a little spoiler cast.
Yes.
But before we get into that, I always ask my guests some questions. So I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to ask you guys the same question or a different question. I think I'm going to ask you guys different questions. All right. Zach, you might get the boring question. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
What is the first TV show that you fell in love with?
Ooh. This is kind of a basic answer, but like Community. It was
Okay.
the first, yes.
Great show.
But like that was the first time I really realized like, oh, TV can be like really good. Because before that, I was watching How I Met Your Mother, which is also a great show. But Community, I think, like raised the bar a little bit for me. Yeah.
Totally. I haven't gotten into Community. I've seen a couple
Me neither.
episodes, but like, and they're really good.
Yeah.
I haven't like really like sat down and watched a bunch of them.
You should do it. I mean,
Maybe
now's
I
the
should.
time.
Maybe I should.
It's a
Alright.
great show.
It's a great show.
I can say that.
And Haley, your question: what show was taken off the air too soon? I'm sorry, I'm throwing out the toughies today.
The first thing that came into mind, I don't know, do you guys know MASH?
Oh
I've
yeah,
heard of
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but
Army
I've seen
show.
like one episode of it.
No.
MASH?
MASH? Yes, it is. Isn't
The
it?
Army
MASH?
show?
That's what I'm thinking.
It's
of,
like
MASH.
It's like the medics during
Yeah.
Is it
Am I saying the wrong thing?
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hold on.
I heard
Backtrack.
MASH and I immediately thought
Smash?
of no MASH.
Marsh?
Like the singing, there's this
Marsh.
song
The
show?
singing
Okay,
one!
yeah.
The
What's it
singing
called?
one.
What is it?
Is it
Marsh?
Smash?
I think it's...
Or is it Smash?
I think it's
I don't
Smash.
even know
It's
what
the
you
one
guys
about
are
Marilyn
talking
Monroe and they're trying to make the musical better.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, what? Is like
Zach knows.
is like like a biopic?
Oh, Smash!
Smash.
Smash! Smash!
My memory, though,
Two season musical show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really
okay.
loved it. I don't know why. I
Oh.
think it was, like, it's, like, embedded in my brain, because, like, growing up, that was, like, my musical, like, theater kid
Interesting.
time, too.
Wait, so it's like a musical, as in like people start singing out of nowhere and like unaware of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
But also-
kinda, yeah.
Wait, what's it about? I don't know what the show is.
Yeah, I've never heard of the show before.
Um,
I'm kind of interested.
I-
You could explain, but just reading off Google, it says it's a songwriting duo tries to create a hit with a Broadway musical
Yeah.
based on the life of Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
That's the-
summary. And
Interesting.
sometimes it's like off the cuff, like Glee vibes, and then there's also
Yeah.
times when it
I
is
think that's why I
within the
liked it.
show. So sometimes it's like, why are they singing? Sometimes it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Wait, so I have a further question now.
Okay.
And this is as I pull up my Squid Game facts. How do you guys feel about the musical episode of like TV shows, like whatever, like
I love
normal
them.
shows have musical
I
episodes?
I'm just a sucker for like any kind of musical incorporated TV show. So I love like Steven Universe.
Oh,
I think it's
yeah.
perfect example of how they like flawlessly incorporate like musical numbers into episodes, because they do it like every other episode.
Yeah, that show's really interesting because
Yeah.
they don't do it consistently.
And it's like conversational and it's very natural. And I don't know, I really love that. Just because maybe it's the theater kid in me still. Like, I just love music.
I was like, I love it, but I think sometimes it's like out of the blue and kind of like makes no sense. But I think if it's done well, it's like my favorite episode of that show.
Totally.
Like that 70s show. Have you guys seen that show?
I've heard of. I've
Yeah.
watched like an episode or two.
Wait,
I
seen
haven't
it.
seen the musical.
Oh, the musical episode's like all 70s music and it's like a little
Oh.
funky. It's like very cool.
Oh,
Like,
that's pretty cool.
know.
I can get down with that.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty interesting.
No, I definitely think they're hit or miss because
Yeah,
sometimes
agreed.
like the actors just like cannot sing. The one show that I think did it really well. Okay, this is also gonna be like really embarrassing and nerdy to admit, but I used to be a huge Supergirl fan.
Yikes.
And they had an episode where they like there was like this like musical like villain who made everyone in the
Yeah.
show sing. But like some of them are like
I think I
really,
saw that one.
some of them were like really good singers, like Melissa Benoist and Grant Gustin. Like they were on Glee.
Yeah.
So they were like actually like good singers. Whereas in other shows you're like, yikes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember in, like, going back to Steven Universe, they had, like, Patti LuPone, like, Nicki
Oh,
Minaj
wow.
Yeah.
was, like, a guest star, and,
Really?
like,
Wow.
yeah, they did it, like, well, like, in terms of musical singing.
you gotta get the big stars.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise,
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
not if they don't have the big stars.
Mm.
They're just doing it wrong.
Well, and, the main character who plays Garnet is Estelle,
Oh, yeah.
the singer, so, like, American Boy, like she's
Hell yeah.
sings.
Oh,
so,
what?
yeah.
I did not
I
know
didn't know
that.
that either.
You know, they bring in some big people in that show, and the music is phenomenal.
Yeah.
In Steven Universe, it's really good. I fell off the show at a certain point because they stopped releasing episodes at a good pace for me. But I always come back to the songs because they're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, without a smooth transition.
Without a smooth transition, it's time to talk Squid Game, which has literally become the most popular show ever on Netflix.
Yes.
Ever.
As of yesterday, the show has garnered 111 million household viewers.
That's crazy.
I think the previous fastest growing show was Bridgerton. I have some stats on it. I don't know where it is, but like it like grew exponentially faster than Bridgerton did.
It's only also been out for...
I didn't realize
less than a
Bridgerton
month
was up
now.
there.
I didn't think it was up
I
there
thought it'd be
either.
like Stranger
Yeah.
Things as like one of
Yeah.
the.
It was Bridgerton.
There's been so many great shows, like House of Cards even, like that
Oh,
was pretty big at the
true.
time.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of Netflix shows that people forget about. I feel
Yeah.
like
I feel like a lot of it is also just because like more people have Netflix now. Like I mean, everyone's like cutting the cord and being like like forget cable. And so like
Oh,
the
yeah,
install
like,
the install base
post-pandemic.
for this show is much higher than it was like for back when House of Cards was like first airing.
I guess we'll just like keep going up and up as more people get Netflix. It'll get easier to break the record over and over, maybe.
Totally. No, I mean, and what's actually interesting about this show is this is the first ever Korean TV
Yeah.
show
Yes.
to reach #1 in
Makes me so happy.
the Western market.
Korean Pride. Yeah.
Which I mean, I want to hear your guys' opinions on this. Like, what do you think? Like, I think there are a couple obvious answers, but like, what do you think brought us to this point where people are willing to watch a show like Squid Game?
Honestly, that's the thing that's been so intriguing to me about Squid Game is the rise of popularity, and how it coincides with like Korean culture and how it's integrated into like Western culture. 'Cause I'm half Korean and like growing up, I have never witnessed like the majority or like a white person like thirst over a Korean man before in my life like that, or like even like I think about like the rise of K-pop and like K-beauty and all of these things that are becoming more normal and honestly like trendy. Like no one knew like Korean food or cuisine, and now it's like pop-ups in like stores and stuff as like cutesy like Asian products. It's very interesting to me because like I think with K-drama specifically and just like Korean film, there's always this like shock factor. Like I think a great example too that parallels well with Squid Game is Parasite.
Yeah.
And,
Just
like,
put it up.
How it starts off very normal and like very realistic, and then it slowly gets more and more twisted, which
Yeah.
I love, and I think that kind of genre is what like Western, like at least in America too, like what the general audiences like really love. And like I think also like TikTok blew up
Yeah.
Squid Game
Yes.
like insanely, and
And it's continuing to.
and it's like just so fascinating how all of these trends are all like kind of coinciding, and it's just I don't know, it's bizarre to me. Like it's not something that I ever thought would be normalized because of like Subtitles, which is a
Yeah.
whole I want to mention Subtitles, but we can get to that. Anyways.
Yeah, I think like just the accessibility, like you were saying, is a really big part of it. Like the fact that
yes.
we're actually
Yeah.
able to watch it, because before like they weren't subtitles and weren't offering dubs before this. So, like the fact that we actually are able to watch these shows now, like I didn't even know about like Crunchyroll was a thing until a very long time ago. So I feel like foreign language content just wasn't something that we could watch, and it was also very stigmatized because it was so hard to get to. So people who did watch it was like kind of frowned upon when I was younger. So the fact that it is so easy to get to now, I think, is also a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think you touched on something like really important with the stigma too. Like I'm like watching anime back in the day
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
oh my gosh, you're like the lame kid who
The
watches
nerdy,
anime
yeah.
and watches things from different countries, which like doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't be anything
Now
that we
it's treated as cute and quirky,
Yeah.
like
Oh, and you're
genuinely,
cool if you watch
like
it, yeah.
you're cool. That was never a thing. Like there's like themed like ramen restaurants that have like anime everywhere. I'd never seen that before. Like Asian culture, especially growing up in a very like white prominent area, it was stigmatized for sure. Like it was just very like, oh, like they're the weird like nerdy kids, whatever. So yeah.
You know, And
it's changed a lot, definitely, for sure. I mean, you've definitely noticed a difference. I would say probably for me since probably middle end of high school, it started to become trendy, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Parasite dropped.
Yes.
BTS became really popular. BTS, the K-pop group.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then now Squid Game, it's just like, it's literally so popular Korean culture.
Yeah, no, it's not even that they're like just like becoming popular. They're like household names now.
No,
Yeah.
I know.
Like they're in the mainstream, which is just like I don't know. It's really cool. I think it's awesome. I think the more and more that we start to take in different art forms, different cultures, we're gonna be better off for that. And like I think with Squid Game, like we found like a really good
Right.
TV
I have
show.
to say, they also put out, like, I feel a lot of foreign films. I was talking about this with my roommate because he's really into foreign films
Yeah.
from all over. He honestly thinks that America is probably only top 5 for the best countries for finding films. He puts Russia, he puts
Really?
Germany, and then Korea before us in
Yeah.
his list of
Yeah.
best countries for Korean
Damn.
films.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of content we have missed because for most of our lives we've only been watching American films, Canadian films, and I guess films in Britain that were made in Britain. That's really all we've ever watched. So we've definitely missed a lot of content. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for the future, and hopefully this starts a path to us watching stuff from other places around the world.
I definitely think it'll happen.
Yeah, I feel like we miss out on like a huge, not only just like world of foreign films, but a whole different like perspective,
Yeah.
culturally, and like I think in Squid Game we really get like an insight on Korean society. Like you see all of the archetypes of each character kind of filling these societal roles in Korea. And there's actually like, and this was a lot of discourse like on TikTok that I've like kind of retained. There's this whole thing about how a lot of the Korean language is lost in translation
Yeah.
of the subtitles.
Mhm.
I don't even want to talk about the English dub, but like the English subtitles.
I have to say,
Ugh.
people who watched the English dub of Squid Games did not really watch Squid Games.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're doing it
it's
wrong.
it's a joke.
Yeah.
Like it made me like laugh. I couldn't take it seriously. But even still with the English subtitles, there's a lot of like reading it like for the first time I was like, that's kind of weird. Like you could tell like the acting didn't line up with the dialogue cuz like what they were doing was much more intense than like I don't even know what they were saying. It's like but it was very like short sentence structures and
Yeah.
it cut out a lot of important like character insight.
Yeah, like nuances.
Yeah, and that a lot of it like reflected with like Korean society because like a lot of those are lost in translation. And there's also like theories that people like whoever was like the English translator like did that on purpose and blah 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 like and I'm like I don't know, but it's really interesting. Yeah.
Is this like because I don't watch a lot of foreign content unfortunately, but is this like a big problem all the time, or is this Squid Games, is it doing it worse than most, or is this like all
I'm not
the time?
sure,
Yeah,
honestly.
I wouldn't know. I've only honestly watched a couple foreign films before,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
could not answer that
Yeah,
question.
I definitely don't know as much either, but like I don't know, I love video games and I watch a decent amount of anime, and a lot of the games I play come from Japan as well. And it's just interesting to see how there are certain references or even just like puns or like word plays that that they'll do in a different language that just don't translate.
Yeah.
Because you
Over,
can't.
Yes.
over here,
So
like,
it is
you
a
literally
common problem.
because like just the structure of our
Right.
is it etymology? Is it
Yeah.
my fancy word of the day? It's just different, and so sometimes you have to take creative liberties and like really like adjust what someone is saying just so that like, hey, this is supposed to be a comedic moment. Like people won't get what this funny thing is. If it like in Japanese, we have to make it English, or I guess for Squid Game Korean into English. And and also like there's a lot of just like translation differences which they're like English speakers are too stupid to understand what this is like like in Pokemon like in like the original season or series, whatever you want to call it, they had I don't know what they're called, the rice things in the seaweed. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about, like
I
the little
do
triangle
watch Pokemon
boys.
now,
Yes,
so-
I've watched Pokemon.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And there's one, and like, I don't know, it's like kind of a more savory food. It's pretty tasty. I
Yeah.
like it.
Uh-huh.
But then an episode of Pokemon, they call it donuts. Because they assumed.
It's like the equivalent to donuts in the United States.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. It's not
No,
even
but
like.
is it a type? Is it like as
It's-
enjoyable as a donut?
No,
Or why
no.
call it
It's
a
like, where does
donut?
it dump
The-
and, like,
I mean, it's because they were like, hey, like English speakers and like I guess kids too,
Yeah.
like won't be able to understand that this
It's
is
like
different
when
than what they eat.
Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone, and Philosopher's
Yeah.
Stone, like
Oh,
America.
yeah.
It's why does that happen?
It's like there doesn't need to be like that grand of a. I don't know. It's definitely like a fine line that you have to play
Yeah.
between like making something as like entertaining, to a different audience, but also like still retaining its truth and not like totally like scrubbing it away
Right.
of its culture.
And that's kind of what this TikToker was commenting on. She also speaks Korean, and she was saying there are like key points where they really botched. I forget her name, but the like antagonist woman who's like with the thought.
I didn't see this
Yeah.
TikTok, yeah.
They said they really botched her character in terms of translation because there's a lot of commentary on how like she's street smart but not academic smart, which is a huge thing in Korean society. And they botched a lot of things with the main character's friend, the childhood friend.
Sungwoo.
The betrayer.
Sunwoo, yes.
Yeah, the betrayer.
So,
That's very
His
apt.
character was like very important too in terms of like making commentary on Korean society because he represents like this mentality that like, oh, because like I had all of these things leading up to this, like I deserve this money.
Yeah.
You know, like I did this, and this because and like I deserve it and like what's the main character?
Gihan? I don't know. I don't know how to say his
Gihan?
name.
Yeah.
Gihan.
Gihan.
I'm really
Um,
terrible with all the pronunciations.
He's
Yeah.
essentially
Sorry.
the foil of Sunwoo.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And like there's like this very important fight between them. Like after I think spoiler alert.
Oh
like,
yeah, guys, this is a spoiler
again,
cast. Like we were going to
after
spoil like
Sunwoo
the heck
kills
out of this.
Saebayok.
Yeah.
Saebayok. Gonna botch all the names too, even though I'm half Korean. Whatever. Yeah. So after that, like there was this like really important scene that like again the translation was just off because
Yeah.
there are just cultural things in Korea that like either the English translation just didn't really like pick up or even like think it was significant, but
Yeah.
like the whole plot with Squid Game coincides with Korean society. Like that's why it makes it's so intense and very meticulous because Koreans are hardcore, like genuinely, like, and that's also why you see all of Korean culture becoming so normalized now. It's because they put that effort and energy into it, like for years. Like you think about like the K-pop industry, all of those performers were being trained since like children.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about, I know this is not a music podcast, but I've heard a lot about how the K-pop industry, they are worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's 15, 16 hour days, some of them.
Yeah.
It's
for
from
7
a
days
super
week.
like young age too,
Yes.
right? And they like train them up to be in the groups.
Because I think BTS has been around probably for, I don't know, 5-6 years, but at
And
least probably
if you've
more.
seen them perform, they do like hardcore choreography.
Yeah.
They're like
And they're
practicing that
everywhere.
shit.
I feel like
Yeah.
every award show,
Yeah.
every big place where you'd have performers, I feel like
Yeah.
BTS is always there.
Yeah.
They are always performing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it kind of
Yeah,
adds to
yeah.
the point of how Korean society is very
And then
intense,
if you
I
talk about
guess.
like academics too, like that's a whole other world. Like, but that kind of is incorporated into Squid Game. Like, just these very hard structural like standards
Yeah.
in Korean society are reflected in the show. But it's just like it goes over your head if you don't know it. And like I didn't know a lot of it until I started like deep diving into this like discourse, I guess, about Korea.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
I've also
it's
heard that
interesting.
Korea itself is very westernized in a sense. I noticed that a lot with Parasite, with a lot of the cars they were driving, the clothes they were wearing, the Voss water. I don't know if anyone picked up on that in Parasite, which is why I also think maybe that's why there's been a rise of it becoming so popular in the United States because we can kind of connect more to the content now.
Do you think they did that on purpose so we'll watch it, like make it easier for us to digest?
Wow.
That's a thinker
That's
right there.
it.
Wow.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe not.
I also
like,
think like there's probably a huge just interest in Western culture
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Just as
Like,
much as we're
Yeah.
interested
Yeah.
in their
Exactly.
culture,
You know.
they're probably just as interested in their culture. For
it's
sure.
well, it's also a huge thing like in Asian countries, like you like if you're from the West, if you're American, like you stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, my roommate
like,
was explaining this to me.
People
when he went to
will
Japan.
like look at you not in a way that is ever like discriminatory. It's just literally they've never really witnessed that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, my roommate went to Japan and they thought he was a celebrity because and he's just like really pasty white
Yep.
boy. And
Exactly.
they literally people were asking to take pictures.
That's so funny.
So yeah, but do you guys want to dive now into the content of
Yeah,
Squid
we
Game?
totally
Get
should.
into
Yes.
it?
Yeah, we were just talking about like like the culture of
Yeah.
Korean society and just expectations that you have. So I think that really gets us into like talking about the characters and like their upbringings and why they were even willing to be a part of the games itself. And I found like at least for me personally, I found it to be the most interesting part of the show. And just I don't know. I feel like I always like whenever I can see like a character's motivations, understand why they are coming, at a certain issue from a certain perspective. And I feel like the show did a really good job of establishing like why every single character was
No,
doing
they
what they
did.
were
Yeah.
doing.
I mean, not only was this just a very popular show, it was also a very well done show. Just had to throw that out.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is probably one of the greatest shows I've seen. I like how they spent that entire first episode too, only kind of, I mean, at least like the first 30-ish minutes were all about the characters.
Yes.
And I thought that was really interesting to see. Who were your guys' favorite characters?
Ooh.
I really love that woman. I don't know her name.
Sae-byeok?
No.
The other one.
Oh, the antagonist.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
like, the thing is, I have this, like, I don't know, like, this attachment towards her because I know we're not supposed to like her, but there's something about her where I'm like, she's smart. Like, she knows what she's doing. And, like, I just remember specifically when she's, like, crying over this, like, the thug and just being, like, whatever. And I'm like, that was a whole performance. Like, she's just trying to, like, I don't know. I just liked that she was very, like, cutthroat. And, like...
She's gaming the game.
Yeah.
I think what you were saying before, though, about, like, how some of the translations, like, changed her character, I think...
It made her weaker.
I think she probably was a much more likable, in a little bit. Like, you probably would have been rooting for her a little bit more, but they make her more, like... You don't want to like her in the English translation.
Yeah, I did not like her. I just thought she was kind of there.
Yes.
And then when she
Yeah.
was with the bad guy, the thug, it just kind of intensified. You're like, okay, she's not a good person.
But from the
There's no
beginning, like, I was rooting for her to, like, take out that, the thug.
Oh, and the moment
entire
she
time.
does
Yeah.
is
Yes!
so
And it
satisfying.
was perfect, too, because I was
It's
like...
so good.
I
Yes.
liked, Ji Young, player 240.
Oh, was that the woman who played the marble game with
Yeah, the really attractive
Yes.
one.
With the
You were-
nose ring?
I think so, yeah.
Oh wait, am I?
Or no,
am I talking
No,
about
or Sae-byeok. The main girl?
The main girl, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
know
for
her
sure.
following count went from, like,
Oh,
100K
yeah.
to, like, 14 million?
Yeah, it's insane. Oh, you were saying earlier you've never seen any white people
No,
fanboy
ever.
over Korean males.
Yeah.
But this girl, all of my friends are obsessed with her.
Same with all of my friends.
world, like-
Everyone-
She
I mean,
is
she's
the
gorgeous.
bi
She's-
awakening.
absolutely.
No, I know. She's gorgeous. I mean, she was one of my favorites. I also liked, what was his, I forget his name.
Who?
He was, the one guy from India.
Ali.
Ali.
That's my favorite character.
Ali.
Oh,
Also, I loved him as well.
I love him, and I loved his backstory. Which this is another thing that I don't know who the TikToker was, but she was just talking about how the Korean culture is related into this. So he's this like migrant worker.
Yeah, from Pakistan.
Yeah, so it's essentially like modernized slavery because he's like working his like it was just like horrible conditions, and it's like it reflects his character so well. There's this whole translation where he comes back when they get dropped off after they left the game for the first time. It was Ali and
Sangwoo?
Sangwoo.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this part where he's like, sir, like, or like, and Sangwoo's like, don't call me sir, blah, blah, blah. It was this whole interaction with them about how Ali was just constantly respectful and very aware of this, like, societal class difference, and even still they went to this game together, both willingly, like, in debt, or not willingly, but like both knowingly in debt, beyond belief, and Sanwoo still gives him money to go back to his home, which would have been like a 7-hour walk apparently, if he walked home from that bus stop. And it was just a really interesting interaction because Sanwoo still kept this image of himself, like this image of like that he's better or like higher class.
Totally.
And it was still this dynamic, and it parallels the way in which Ali eventually dies, like because he falls into this like
a con.
Yeah, like a con. He gets conned, and he's very what's the word, like ignorant around this whole like being taken advantage of kind of thing, and like it's because it's this inescapable way, because he entered this, he went to Korea as his like only option, like out essentially, and it was like a con within a con, and that's eventually how he died. So, and I think that's really interesting how like it that reflects so meticulously with every character. You see that in like Sae-byuk's character, because I loved her backstory about how she's from North Korea, and like it was really like this tragic story, and I think this was like the director's commentary about how the marble game between her and the other girl with the nose ring, how they both had very like tragic backstories, but we still were rooting for them because they were like the most innocent of everybody. Yet they were very different because one of them like killed her father.
Yeah, but I mean, her father was an abuser,
right?
Yeah,
but that was happening all in South Korea, where it was supposed to be better. And like you see the reflection of Sae-byuk's character and how like she was running away from North Korea and like still struggling. This was supposed to be better, and it's just kind of so great because it's so tragic. Because like you see all of these stories and you fall in love with them because you're rooting for them, and then it's just like kind of like the honest truth that like life is not fair, which is this like common saying that's like
that is a very true fact though. Life just is not fair.
Yeah.
Facts.
And I think this show just does a great job of proving that, because I don't know, I think most of the show you just start to realize life isn't fair.
Yeah.
And they're all put into a situation where life isn't fair. I mean, at first when I was watching it, I thought it was very similar to the Hunger Games.
Then you start battle royale.
But then you start to realize it's just so much more than that, because these people voluntarily went into these games just to make more money, and then they still ended up in the same position they were.
No, I think that...
And it was also more about strategy, too.
Yeah, I think the thing that separates it from the Hunger Games is that in the Hunger Games, there are a lot of things, like, it's not like a battle royale, traditionally.
There's advantages.
Yeah.
Per district, I feel like.
Definitely. But in this one, they're actively, like, choosing to go into this, whereas the Hunger Games, they're drafted, they're forced into it. And so, in people choosing to be a part of the games, it becomes... much more about their characters and their arcs and who they are as individuals. And so going back a couple conversations too, my favorite character was Sang-woo. Not because I agree.
Not
because I agree with anything that he did, but he's so interesting. And watching his descent into like evil and like immorality is so cool. And it's like I feel like it's so believable. Because, like, at first you see him as, like, oh, he's, like, kind of, like, the leader of the group, like, helping everyone out.
Yeah, he's the most proper.
I mean, or, he puts up that front at the very least, and then, during tug-of-war, and he comes up with the idea of, like, taking a step forward.
Take a step forward.
And then everyone does, and then I feel like that, like, inflates his ego even more.
Yeah.
And so I think the next game after that was the marble game, right?
Yeah.
Like... You can tell that he feels entitled to win and to, gain the money because of everything he's doing.
He was about to lose.
Yeah.
There was a moment where he literally would have lost and died. And Ali would have continued.
Yeah.
And Ali was openly trusting him because they created this dynamic that, like, Ali was, like, the worker and Sang-woo was the boss.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting because, like, they really play on the theme of, like, you are all equals here, too, which I love. Like, it's just so... I don't know, because then there's this whole other layer with the game, like, being, like, yeah, and I don't even know where I was going with that, but I just got too excited, but, yeah, sorry.
What did you guys think of the old guy? That's just how I know him as player number 1. You know, I don't know if it's a theory or a fact, but there's the rumors that he was the creator of the games.
Yeah.
He created it. Is that just a known fact?
Didn't he?
I mean,
at the end of the show,
he's
kinda
definitely
says.
he's
He
the
kinda
runner
says it,
of
yeah.
it, but doesn't necessarily. I mean, I think it's kind of like the light read of it is that he was the one.
He
who
was the
invented
creator,
it.
yeah. Because I mean, you notice at the end. I feel like everyone kind of. I personally did not see that coming when it came to the final episode, but looking
me
back,
neither.
if you watched how he was always smiling.
Right.
Throughout the
There's
entire
a
yes.
lot of little hints.
Yeah,
Like
they actually do say I
They
have
go back,
a fan
yeah.
theory list up, and it says that every main character's death is foreshadowed, and I think just in general, this show had a lot of foreshadowing.
It's so
It's so
meticulously
solid
done,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of just goes back to Korean screenwriting and directing. Like, you could, like, easily see that in Parasite and how, like, meticulous and on purpose every single thing was throughout the entire film, and it's the same with Squid Game, and it's so great, like, to watch again and, like, pick up on all of those things, because it's like you see it, it's all there, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
No, there's so many solid pieces of setup, and like this is a really really small detail that really got me. Like in the glass game where they're like you have to step on the right pieces of glass.
Yeah.
When the religious man he like sat down and started praying, I was like, if he like this didn't happen like several episodes in the past, I wouldn't have believed it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it's like that they set it up, they did it so many times. Now he's doing it right now. Like I was like, oh, I believe that he would do this.
And then he gets pushed off.
And it adds so much tension to the scene too. I don't know. I just feel like they kept putting on like all of these little like pieces on the board so that like whenever like it was the right moment, they can move them and like instill this whole other like level of tension or like create like another like narrative plot thread. That really engaged you as a watcher.
I also feel that this is so random, but the color scheme
Yes. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
is just so good.
I
in
love
the
it.
Film. If we are, I mean, in the TV show as a film podcast, I would love to say that the color scheme is just so aesthetically pleasing.
Oh,
The
definitely.
entire
It creates
show.
a sense of like weird, like this weird dissonance, and like you're comfortable with these very warm, like
Oh, I know.
candy coated colors, but it's so twisted and
It
dark.
kind of drags you in.
Yeah.
You're like, what is this kid show? Because I
Yes.
remember the first time I
Yes.
saw it, I was in my room and my roommate had it on. And I was like, what the heck is this guy watching? It looked like a kid show
Yes.
because it was just these bright colors. And it was kind of like in one of those off-period scenes. They had like the little, I don't know if it was a house or something, but just the color scheme looked very much
Right.
so like a jungle gym or something that you would go to as a kid. And then I saw other people watching it and I realized, oh, it's the show Squid Game. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Squid Game an actual game that kids
Yeah, that's
play
what
in
I've heard.
Korea
Yeah.
when they're children? And this is all based off that. Another theory, I'm just gonna keep listing off some of these theories, is that Ji-hung and the old guy, I don't want to mispronounce his name, Numbers, are symbolic. This says that in the theory, it's symbolic because Ji-hung represents the end of the Squid Game, because he's the final player who gets the last number. He's 456, and the old man was numbered number 1 because he represents the origin of the game. I mean, obviously, since it's implied in the end that the old guy created the games, I think that's a pretty accurate one.
I think there's a lot of foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think that's
like,
foreshadowing.
of
Also,
Ilnam being like the creator of it. Since he was number 1, he is has always been number 1 on the food chain.
Also, there was that scene with like the VIPs.
Yeah.
Right?
what do you
they were
think
like,
of the VIPs?
They were my least favorite part of this.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not maybe. Yeah.
Okay,
there,
I was
anyways.
just I was a little confused on like specifically the like script for those scenes, like,
very
in the
cheesy.
VIP.
It's,
So
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah.
I was like, did they have like a Korean writer write the English parts for this? Like, I was confused, but like that whole part, like it wasn't predictable, but it was more like, like when you can like kind of feel out when you're watching something and then it happens and it's just like very satisfying. And I'm like, okay, there's a whole other layer to this. Like, great. And I think that really made me like fall in love with Squid Game more. It was just like there's this whole other like thing behind just the suffering of these characters that we've been following throughout the whole series. Now there's this thing on top, like controlling everything.
Exactly.
Totally.
That reflects like what society is like now. Have you guys seen that meme where it's like, at least I'm not in the Squid Game, I'm just like in the metaphor that Squid Game is referring to?
I have seen that.
I'm like, yeah.
I will say that I feel like all the VIPs and whoever the detective guy is, I forget his name, like, they always took me out of the story. I never felt like, what is it?
Is that the guy who went to try to find where his
Yeah.
brother was?
I just feel like I feel like it was important to learn more about like the underworkings of Squid Game, and I feel like when we get to season 2, like that's gonna be like the big. I feel like it's gonna be kind of like the parallel to Catching Fire, where it's like, oh, now we're gonna start doing like
I feel like this
dismantling
show has
the
a
system.
lot of resemblance to the Hunger Games, kind
totally.
of with the VIPs, and that's like kind of how they had the sponsors in the Hunger
Yeah,
Games.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like
So-
it just took me out of it as a
Really?
viewer. I was so engaged in like the contestants. That's not what they're saying, but the players of the game. I was so like interested in what they were doing and like and all the drama that was happening. I was always so much more like fascinated by that. And then whenever I like watch the guy like
I feel like
hunt, I was
that
like,
whole like plot, well, because like I read more. This Squid Game took like the director like 10 years, right, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
that's something I also wanted to touch on later on.
And like he intended it for it to be like only like a movie or like not, and then continued it to be what it's now. So like I think a lot of those like subplots were just like setups for like the next season, and we're gonna get more of it
because nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like there's no like catharsis at the end of it.
I was genuinely like very confused with the whole like when the old guy came back. Like I was like not expecting that whatsoever. Like I thought it was gonna end in like this like giant explosion with like the police coming in to the island and like it's gonna end on a cliffhanger. No one is gonna know anything because that's how Netflix shows go.
For sure.
But
instead, it just ended with him refusing to go on the plane.
yeah, and I don't know if I don't know.
There's
Should've
rumors
gotten the
that
plane.
something about that plane. There's a theory, speaking of the plane.
I also don't. I
That it was
still don't
rigged.
understand why he dyed his hair red. Does anyone?
Oh,
No,
I heard a bunch
why?
of theories about this.
I've heard some theories too. Do you want to say what you've heard? And I'll say what I've heard.
I've heard a lot of like it's him like becoming the rich because like the red is like what they wear, their costumes, and
That's
he's like
true.
now on their side.
Yeah.
And the director also said like it's because of his anger. He's like he's very mad. And that's the expression of it.
Interesting. So what I would mention earlier too was that the players wearing green and the whatever the guard people wearing like the pink red color. Those are like contrasting colors on the end of the color wheel. Is what I've heard about, and so like it even like it makes them even more disparate, like from a color profile too, because
Wasn't there another theory that like the guards are actually other people who decided to play the game but got the other?
I've heard that.
I
They,
heard
like,
that too.
Just
The
prove
other
it.
like whatever the thing that they threw.
Yeah.
because
Or
they don't get to
something.
say, they don't seem to get such good treatment as
Yeah,
well. the
because
guards.
they're still like they're
Not
still
really.
like considered like lower
Yeah.
class.
Oh, yes. So one of the most popular fan theories revolves around how players and guards are recruited for the competition. Ji-yeon picked the blue card from the salesman, and he woke up as a player. However, had he or the other players picked a red card, they would have been the workers of the
Because
guards.
like, why would you be willingly like shooting people like?
Probably getting paid a lot of money is my thought. Like
Do you
But
think
they're
they
not
get
being
paid?
treated well.
yeah, but I'm assuming this whole operation is being funded like a ridiculous amount of money. Like, because also the organization it takes to run that whole thing, you need those people to be trusted, like with you the whole time. Like, I feel like you can't rely on them just like people you got off the street.
They might just get paid a little more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely up in the air as to why they would, and like maybe that's something that we get more into in
Hopefully.
season 2.
I,
Yeah.
when
I
do you
also
guys
wanna
think
mention-
season 2 will happen?
I don't
Probably
know.
not
I have
for a
no
while.
idea.
Hopefully
Wait,
soon.
so can we talk about whether or not we want season 2 to happen?
I do. I like the
Yeah.
way it ended. I think it's good for season 2.
I
You think
mean,
so?
Yeah.
I wouldn't like not be mad of us for season 2. I mean, like I feel like it's expected at this point.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't know.
Netflix show that did good. They're gonna give it a season
Yeah.
2.
I feel like it's gonna be a wholly different show now. That
Yeah.
I feel like
It's not gonna be about the game.
it's not gonna be about the game. Like you're gonna lose all those characters that you fell in love with are not gonna be
Yeah.
there besides
Ji-hun.
Besides Ji-hun.
Well, there's also a theory why I don't think he went on the plane was because I think he thinks it was rigged. Like I think he thought that they were going to take the plane and crash it if he went on it. That's another theory.
Oh.
Because
What?
This is another Redditor theory. They were going to blow up the plane because there was a highlight how there was foreshadowed in an earlier episode. Someone had said, rich or poor, in a plane crash, you were all the same.
Oh.
So now, even though he's rich, it doesn't make a difference. They could still somehow rig this plane crash if he goes on.
Yeah.
And they do
That's
say, like,
probably why he
just get on the
does turn
plane,
away.
Gi-hun. Like, just get on
Yeah,
the plane.
yeah.
That's true.
So that's why he, I think,
Yeah.
decided not to get on the plane.
I also really love this shot of him, like, because
If
okay.
anyone- yeah.
Oh, so this is gonna be really complicated. It's gonna sound really weird too. I have this fascination with behind the back, shoulder up shots. I don't know what it is, but every time I watch a movie and I see it, like something clicks with me, and so I've been trying to figure it out. And I've been like taking notes every time I see it in movies too. And so the opening of like that shot where he's walking back, it is like from behind, and it lingers there for a long time too. It's all one take as he's like listening on the phone call. And he like turns back and he faces the camera. Then you watch it from the opposite perspective. And so this is gonna sound real. It's gonna sound really far fetched, guys. All right. So my thesis as to what the behind the back shot symbolizes is it's a character walking towards their goals, and it's their motivation, and it's like their outward like not perspective, but I guess like goal. I don't want to say goal again. You know what I mean? Like it shows what their intent is. Whereas when he flips her, and because you can't see their face either, too, you don't get any emotion from the character like that. You only see like what they are doing. It's very action oriented. Whereas for this, when he turns around, you finally see his face, and so you get to like, as opposed to thinking about what he's doing, you think about what he's thinking about and what his beliefs are.
Right.
Is he, like, turning his back
And
on his goals? And like,
you feel like he's going to go
Basically,
back
yeah.
to the game. Like, that's kind of what it's kind of set up to be.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm curious, like, what is he going to do to actually stop these games if it's a
I
sequel?
feel like
next
he has to
season?
re-enter. I feel like that's what's going to happen, right?
So it's just
Love
I
that.
feel like there's not much they could do. I don't think this show can go past like 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I don't think it should.
I don't think
I
it
agree.
should. Do I think Netflix will try?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think, like, Queen's Gambit was pretty big, and they probably could have forced a second season, but they didn't. Like, I think the show has, like, 2 or 3 seasons left.
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
I also feel like that show was made like intentionally as a limited run, which I kind of like thought and hoped that this show would
that's
have
what
been.
I thought. Like when I saw like the first, like the beginning too, I thought this could have been like a movie.
Yeah,
It felt like
Honestly,
a movie.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
the way it was set up, and
is that Netflix money?
yeah, true.
Yeah, no,
I think he originally wanted it just to be 1 season or 1 movie.
That's what you said. Yeah.
But, like, oh, sorry. I think Netflix probably. Do they get involved with the creative process? And do they tell them, like, can you
I
add
feel
a little
like-
more
I don't
suspense
know.
for the next season?
I'm
Or-
sure you have a lot of sway as
we were talking about
Netflix.
this last
they,
week with 13 Reasons Why. I mean, that was a show. I don't know if you guys have
Yeah.
heard. That was a show that should have had literally 1 season.
Yeah.
That's it, and then it ended up having 4 of unneeded
did?
content. Yeah, there was 4
Yeah.
seasons.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
till like a month ago. And I was like, why?
I watched up to the second one, I think.
The second
never
season
got
was
into it.
okay, but then it just didn't make any sense past the 3rd and the 4th. And I feel like, unfortunately, knowing that this is Netflix, that could be the case. But, you know, we'll have to see.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
it's-
I think we talked about this last week, Joe. Or maybe it was a week before that. Maybe you haven't even talked about it. But
We have this conversation a lot, I feel
Okay,
like.
well,
But it's okay.
I apologize to everyone listening. I really like when shows know when they're supposed to end.
That was last
Me
week,
too.
but yes.
Okay. And I feel like this is a show that like very much could have been like, yeah, and we're done with our just make a
That's
point.
how I felt about like Stranger Things, honestly.
Stranger
Yeah.
Things is
And
And
starting
when
to
is
get
that gonna
dragged out.
happen?
Dude.
When is the 3rd season gonna come out? Like,
You mean the 4th season?
Fourth?
Yeah,
Wait.
we're on season 4.
They're gonna keep going.
It's coming out. It's coming out next year. They have
They
like
released the trailer, I think.
yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
once they started the whole like subplot with like the Russian,
I'm just kind of lost in that show. I
I-
don't know what's going on.
Honestly, neither do I. I've
fell in
seen
love with
I've seen
it.
every episode. Don't know what's happening.
It's just
I
a Stranger
loved
Thing.
it,
I don't
and
know what's
now
happening.
I'm sad.
Stop.
Yeah.
That was awful.
But well, here's the thing with Squid Game. Okay, so I still like don't fully understand, and maybe this is just me not knowing anything about production. It's like a whole Korean like production team besides the fact that it has the Netflix name.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So like, and it was made in Korea.
Uh-huh.
So like I don't know, maybe I don't know what'll happen, but maybe that gives me like more hope. then like.
Well, Netflix does release other foreign projects. I know that they do a lot of Spanish films. They do a lot of Latin films. So who knows?
Because if they gave them all of that freedom to do this, then like as a season 1, like I feel like they would keep that theme because of the response that, you know what I mean?
I think
that they got. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is yet to be seen. I'm surprised that she really didn't like the Junho subplot.
It was really just that he wasn't.
I enjoyed that. I can agree with you with the VIPs being a little funky and not enjoying that, but like Junho on that quest to figure out where his brother is, and then that final just realization of who his brother is, and
I mean,
his face. It's just.
I mean, like I get it. Sorry, what were we gonna say, Haley?
Oh no, I was just.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, my only issue is just that it doesn't connect to. I mean, from a narrative level and from like a lore perspective, it does connect. Like we learn more about the world and everything.
Yes.
Right, but it doesn't influence anything that's going on within the games. It doesn't influence our knowledge about any of the characters within the games. They're too disparate for me to think that they belong. You know what I mean? Like if we were to rip out everything that, how do you say his name again? Junho. If you were to rip out everything that he did, nothing changes. The show operates like exactly the same way.
But that's a B story. That's usually how B.
No, but I don't even feel like my like emotional connection was enriched or anything. If anything, I feel like it would have hit me even harder, everything that happened to the players of the game, if I was only shown their stories, because I would have been only in their world.
But
does that make sense?
A big question we all have is like we want to learn more about the behind the scenes and the backstory, and I think this does a very seamless way of telling us that. I think you do have a good point that like they're just too separate, and I think they probably should have connected the two better. But I still think it was essential. Like I don't think they could have done it.
Like what if like Junho was like related to one of the players that we were actually watching play the game?
Well, isn't he's the masked man?
The masked
man.
Man.
That's his brother, right?
Yeah,
he was a previous winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's like the current nature of it. Like if he was someone who was actually playing the games at that moment.
It's more like you're rooting more for Junho too.
Yeah, because I'm like,
you want them to like be reunited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and not necessarily.
For this was more up in the air about what was going on and what whose connection was to, and then like I feel like the like sibling thing only means anything for that very last moment for when he shot, right?
Yeah. It felt when I found out like, oh, he's the brother, I was like, oh, like seems a little too perfect, but I didn't hate it, but like there's also like theories that the old guy number 1 is like 456's father.
Yes, I've seen that
and I'm
too.
like, I
that
don't know
is
if
the
they're gonna
number
go
one
with that.
theory. It is the most mind-blowing fan theory about Squid Game so far. Is detailed in a very well post.
I could see it happen.
You and Lover.
That,
I will obviously be crediting my source for this one. Shares a TikTok video that highlights 2 specific scenes in the show. First shows player number 1 commenting about player number 456 must have gotten spanked a lot as a kid, which he knows because his son did too. One of the theories. And then in the second scene that's more persuasive as it replays the moment when player number 1 tells player 456 the neighborhood in the 4th game looks familiar, to which the protagonist responds that looks similar to where he grew up as well. Takes this theory further by proposing that player number 1 created the competition to find his son because he has dementia and wants player number 456 to continue the tradition and be the head of the games. Incredible theory that could have massive implications about the origin and purpose of the entire competition.
And just a double source, that's all from a Screen Rant article.
Yes, just a double source. All of this has been from a Screen Rant article based off of Twitter and Reddit.
In the second episode, like why did the old man specifically go to Ji-hun?
Did you notice that
true.
too? Yes,
that's like interesting. Like out of all the players, he like, and obviously they talked before that, but like why did he go to his town and like find him? Like he could have just not talked to anyone.
The entire country of Korea, he goes to player number.
Oh, I totally forgot. I forgot that they even met up again.
That adds to the theory
significant.
that they might know each other.
Interesting.
Also, I think it's really interesting. You know how that number 1 was like the last person to vote, and he voted for them to leave.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes back that he did that because, like, I think that's just really interesting because he wanted like to continue the fun of the game, I guess.
He
Like,
was having
Exactly.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Fun. And the game loses its fun if people are doing it and don't want to be a part of it.
yeah, if
Yeah.
it's not their own free will, which
Uh-huh.
is
Yeah.
just like this whole idea of like free will is just completely blown out
It's
of
technically
just
not
whatever.
free will, but
It's
in the
not,
sense that-
but it's so interesting too. Like, it's like, it's exactly what society's like. And
Yeah.
you're like,
moral of the story: Squid Games is society.
So
Yeah.
as we're running out of time, for like this conversation thread in particular, I want to ask you guys a question. I want to know, what was the moment that messed you guys up the most in Squid Game? Like what was like the most heart wrenching or just like most like deeply upsetting? Not to end on a downer. I'm so sorry. I didn't really think about.
I would
the
just say
implications.
for me, when Ali dies and the betrayal, that was pretty.
I would probably say the entire like marble scene, but like
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
Cyberyak and the other girl's death, like that whole thing when they're like, oh, we had to go to like Jeju Island and stuff. And blah,
Oh,
blah.
yeah,
and
which-
then yeah, they have their whole like life story and reminisce, and then she gets shot. Like, oh, it was
was
yeah.
rough.
I think the old man and Gi-hun scene for me, because I just like that relationship really connected for me before I knew that he like was evil. But I was like, damn, like that's such a cute relation. Like they're best friends.
Yeah.
Like and he's like, oh, he's taking advantage of this old man who I can't remember his own name, and then like, then he like tricks him, and it's
Yeah.
that it's just so drawn out too.
Yeah.
So
And the moment where Ilman, is that how you say his name, was like reference that he was playing tricks on him the entire time, taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
I was
Would
like,
you really do that to your best friend? It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
I
he
was like,
knew.
oh.
he was letting you do that to
I think the moment that hurt me the most, I don't remember the first instant that it happened, but I remember it happened again when the husband killed himself.
Oh yeah.
Is whenever you see a singular person die, and then the
Yes.
piggy bank fills up with money.
Just like a little bit.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
like it just like it was like, oh my gosh, like we're just like numbers to you people.
Yeah,
Like we're a couple
literally.
stacks of bills. I just thought that was really impactful. That one really hit me.
Wait, I have another one that popped into
Yeah.
my head after I said. I think when he comes back from winning, and he sees his mom dead, like that was just like, and like I was like looking more into that scene, like how the director specifically put that in, like because like this is like his final defeat, like he is like a shell of
Yeah.
a person
is,
now,
yeah.
and he has all of this money, but now he's like literally got nothing. And it was just like I guess like him walking back, and also the scene with the other Ajima, like the other mom, at the store, Sunwoo's mom.
Yeah.
And where she's like, oh, have you heard of Sunwoo, and like blah blah, and it was just that those scenes were like really, I was like sobbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. Well, it's time for our final segment. It's a quick one where we discuss the movies that we were chosen to watch, and then we, in turn, give a movie for the next week.
Yes.
So you guys are actually going to give us our movies this week, since there's two of you and two of us. But while you guys are thinking, we'll discuss the movies that we were tasked to watch
Yes, and
last
if you
week.
guys have seen them too, feel
You
free to
can
jump
feel
in
free to
as
comment.
well. Did you actually watch your movies?
I did watch both my movies.
Oh, wow, I'm so
'cause,
proud of you.
We had a whole issue where I did not watch my movie from the 2 weeks ago, so I had to watch two. I had to watch Logan and Little Women, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Logan, I liked. I felt like I was a kid again because I had not seen
really?
a superhero movie and watched a superhero movie in a very long time and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I liked actually learning his origin story. And
That is not his origin story.
I thought it was his origin story. so-
Of Wolverine?
I
Wait, which one did you watch? What did you
maybe
watch?
I watched the wrong Logan.
Did you watch? Don't tell. No, stop.
What?
Did you watch X-Men Origins Wolverine and not Logan?
No, I watched Logan.
Like when he was an old man.
Oh my gosh.
You watched this one.
Oh no, I
Did you watch X-Men's Origins?
think I watched Origins.
That's
yeah.
Stop.
a great movie.
Stop.
I watched
Joe.
Origins.
Joe.
Sorry. I apologize.
You don't even understand. That is like, like within like the superhero community, that's known to be one of like the worst superhero movies
Oh my
of
god.
all time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Logan's
Well-
one like known as like these beautiful artsy one.
Yeah.
And like two.
They're so,
Okay, well,
they're so disparate.
I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was bad.
Did you watch The Right Little Women? Because there are a couple,
I-
a couple
was
different
it
ones
the-
too.
I watched the one with Timothy. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Good.
I thought it was good. It was not my type of movie, but It was okay.
How did you feel about the time travel with not time travel, but like the time play?
I was really tired when I watched it, so it was okay.
It really upsets me. I love that movie, and
It's not my type of movie.
and I love how it
leave
conveys
on that.
time via like it's color grading, and I love the characters.
It was a good movie.
You disappoint me every single day.
I'm sorry.
Joe.
I'm sorry. I apologize, but anyways, what did you think of Ted?
Okay, so I will say Ted is the best one you've given me so far.
Wow.
In terms of movies, I don't love Ted. I have a lot of complaints. I don't think that it aged very well. I think some of its jokes.
Ted, as in the teddy bear movie.
Yeah, the
Yes.
teddy bear
I
movie.
love Ted. I haven't seen it in a while,
Fine.
but
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Some of the jokes do not age
Yeah.
at all.
I was old enough.
I
Um,
was like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was 11. So you guys were probably also around the same age.
I thought I was like 13.
Yeah.
But like it is pretty funny, and I enjoy it, and I think that it comes really close to having a really satisfying arc for its character. Because I'm gonna spoil Ted for you. Is that okay? All right, thank you.
Wow.
Because there's a moment where Mila Kunis breaks up with whatever
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg's character is, and she's like, hey, "You're hanging out with this teddy bear too much." She doesn't talk like that, but she's like, "Yeah." so like you won't grow up, so like goodbye, right? And then Ted says to Mark Wahlberg's character, he's like, maybe like I'm not the issue, maybe it's you, and maybe you're the one who's refusing to grow up,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's not my fault. And I thought I was like, oh, that's really smart, that's really good, but they never did it, and like they end and like Ted gets kidnapped at a certain point, and I
mean,
I just wanted it to be grounded and like stick with like the little like emotional problems. If it's not becoming obvious right now, I really want like as few plot lines in my movies and just like hard characters.
I feel like you're
feel
not
like
watching the right movie because that's
Yeah.
a Todd McFarlane movie. Like things are gonna go off the rails.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's-
have you ever watched Family Guy? He just
no. See, and that's the whole point of this little experiment that we're doing.
I feel like we like different types of movies. You like the critically acclaimed, the beautiful, well done.
I mean, I also watch like superhero movies like all day, every day.
Superhero movies are pretty critically acclaimed as well.
Sometimes. So
Until you watch the wrong Wolverine.
Yeah.
until you
I
watch the
that.
long
Great point.
Wolverine.
But I feel like with comedy movies, a lot of the time they sacrifice the plot for the jokes.
Yeah, which upsets me.
I get it upsets you.
I feel like there are a lot of examples of comedy movies that do a really good job of making a lot of jokes, but also putting story first. I think one of my
Really?
favorites is Booksmart. Have you seen that
I
one?
have
I
not seen
love
Booksmart,
Booksmart.
but I've seen Lady Bird, which
I've
I've heard is.
Love Lady. I wouldn't
Bird,
call
yeah.
Lady Bird a comedy though.
No, I mean there's
It's-
some comedic
It's
parts.
I think
a
it's funny.
dramedy.
It's
Yeah.
a dramedy.
I'm gonna say Booksmart for another recommendation
Word.
for you later because I really love that movie. I think that you might enjoy it
I
too.
would probably enjoy it.
Um,
But I'm happy you enjoy. What was the first movie I gave you?
Big Time Adolescence.
You preferred Ted over Big Time Adolescence. Interesting.
Yeah, I think I
Really?
do. I think I found Ted funnier than Big Time Adolescence.
Ted is a very funny movie.
and
That's what I like the most about it.
and I don't know. I mean, and like, okay, for all like, I was giving Ted a really hard time. It's kind of cute at times, and having like a horny teddy bear is like as a
It's
premise
funny,
is
yeah.
pretty funny. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Not my favorite, but it was fun. I'm glad that I watched it. I'll give you that.
Good to know.
Nice.
All right.
Fair.
Now
The tables
you
are turning
two
to you
have to
guys.
give us a movie, and then
you guys
we
have
can,
to watch this.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll figure out what movie each. Of
Yeah.
us-
Wait, are we gonna end up watching both
know.
movies, or are we
Do we
both
want
gonna
to
watch?
watch both, or I guess you guys can give each of us a movie?
Yeah. I mean,
based
oh.
off
lot of
our
pressure.
taste.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know like how much time you guys have had to actually.
See, that's
plan
the
this.
thing. I have no idea what your guys' taste is, but
I have one just because like while we're on the topic of foreign films, In the Mood for Love. Have you guys heard of it? It's a.
No.
I had to watch it for one of my classes. So it's not like a big movie or anything, but it's a great foreign film that like because while I was starting to get into like more East Asian films, it's like really beautiful, great plot. It's about like these two neighbors they're both married and their spouses are possibly being unfaithful, and
Tea.
they're kind of like they're figuring it out together. That's all I'm gonna say if you watch it. But.
Interesting.
In the
Okay.
Mood for Love.
I was like, where my brainstorming was going was more sort of towards the comedy side, I guess. And like Halloween's coming up.
Yes, give it to
So,
us.
Have you guys seen Elvira, Mistress of the Dark?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
I
It's
even know how
like
to spell that, my dude.
Elvira, Elvira,
Thank you.
Mistress of the Dark.
Thank you.
I think it was made in like the 60s or 70s. It's like very like cult classic kind of like campy, fun Halloween vibes. I mean, I just watched it again and I forgot how like silly it is. It's just like an easy like consumable movie.
All right.
And I feel like a lot of people reference it during like spooky season too. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch both of these.
Yes. Are we gonna watch
Yeah.
both?
We'll figure it out.
We'll
We'll talk about it off camera,
Off
and then
camera.
and then
I mean,
we'll-
I'll take the In the Mood for Love if you want to take.
It's pretty heavy.
I feel like
Even
that's probably the proper swap
comedy
for
and
us
then
too.
I'll take the heavy
All
one.
right,
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, at the very least, we'll
Sounds
do
like
that.
perfect.
But yeah, as we're coming to the close, thank you so much for joining us,
This is a good
guys.
episode.
This is
Yeah.
it's
I
a
mean,
lot of fun.
I feel like every episode is a good episode.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy this one a
yeah,
lot.
I hope you
for
guys had a
sure.
good time.
Yeah,
It was a
Um,
great time
a ton of fun,
talking,
yeah.
Yes,
you know?
and thank you
Right up
to
my
our
alley.
thank you to our listeners and
Yes.
watchers for joining us for the Some Pulp Podcast. We are Autonomous Productions podcast. Autonomous Productions is the premier film production company on Syracuse University.
Follow us on Instagram at autonomous_.
Yes, and you can find this podcast on Spotify and YouTube. We're going to be on the Autonomous Productions YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
All right.
I'm
Thank you so
Joe.
much. I'm Josh.
These were our guests.
So I guess.
I'm Zach.
Bye. I was Haley.